Personality puzzle. What's the critical difference between introverts and extroverts? And why is that important in our culture? Well, it turns out that in social situations, the first impulse for extroverts is to talk, and for introverts, the first impulse is to think. Is this really a critical difference? Yes, it is. This is how it works in practice. Let's say Bill is an extrovert and John is an introvert, and they're asked the question. They both hear it at the same time. Bill's first impulse is to talk about it. John's first impulse is to think about it. After a few seconds, he's ready to share. But it's too late. Bill has already responded and the conversation shifts to what he's just said. So even though Bill and John both have good ideas, what happens? Bill winds up getting 100% of the attention. He's not trying to monopolize the conversation, he's just acting true to his extroverted nature. And because extroverts get the attention, we live in an extroverted culture that values the outgoing energy of the extrovert over the more thoughtful energy of the introvert. This bias has put introverts at a disadvantage and fostered 4 myths that are now embedded in our culture. These are the 4 myths of introversion. Let's take a hard look at these myths and see if we can't get a more accurate picture of introverts. First myth: introverts don't want to talk. Sure they do, but in situations that match their preference for being thoughtful, which means the discussions are often quieter and no one interrupts. It means that there can be comfortable periods of silence, and people give each other a few moments to think before commenting. In these conditions, introverts are great conversationalists. So let's cross out myth number 1. Second myth: introverts have little to say. That's just not true. However, introverts often know more than they share. They won't push their ideas and rarely will they interrupt. In our extroverted culture, where an aggressive verbal approach may be considered positive, introverts won't fight to be heard. But don't interpret their quietness for a lack of things to say. The old expression, "quiet waters run deep," describes introverts perfectly. So if you want to know what an introvert is thinking, just ask. So let's cross out myth number 2. Third myth: introverts are unfriendly. They certainly don't think so. While it may be true that they don't develop as large a circle of friends as extroverts often do, that doesn't mean they're unfriendly. They enjoy the friends they do have all the more because they are fewer in number. Rather than a broad circle of friends, they have a deeper circle of friends. So value their friendship just as they deeply value yours. So let's cross out myth number 3. Fourth myth: introverts are shy. Not necessarily. Not any more than extroverts. Because introverts are quieter than extroverts, they may appear shy to extroverts. But introverts are comfortable with their quietness and would find it strange if you asked them if they were feeling okay. Shyness is defined as feeling awkward in social situations, and their quietness does not mean they're feeling uncomfortable, so they are not shy. So reframe them from being shy to being thoughtful. So let's cross out myth number 4. So now that we have exploded some of the common myths of introversion, the next question is, how can introverts and extroverts get along better? Let's look at some examples. Ken and Jack can reframe each other in more positive terms. For example, Ken can reframe Jack this way: Jack isn't shy, he's just quiet and needs a moment. Ken reframes Jack away from the myth of shyness to the more accurate preference for being thoughtful. And Jack can reframe Ken as well. He isn't rude, he's just outgoing and likes to talk. Jack reframes Ken's chattiness by acknowledging his extroverted preferences and accepting him for who he is. They can also typeflex to each other. Ken and Jack can consciously work to the other person's preference. For instance, Ken can typeflex to Jack this way: Jack, tell me what you think about. Ken invites Jack to share. He doesn't expect him to have to interrupt. He asks and then waits. And Jack can typeflex to Ken in this way: That's an interesting question. Give me a second. Jack wants a bit of time to think about it, so he gives Ken a reason for his silence. Now Ken can be patient because he knows Jack heard the question and will respond shortly. Always value your own preferences and work to your own strengths. In the end, extroverts are best at being extroverts, and introverts are best at being introverts. With a bit of reframing and typeflexing, everyone can get along and bring out the best in each other. Good luck in all your relationships. May they all be enriching.